I don't. It won't be long after 6, so we should see him, Natty, come in, and then can you pick up from there?
Sure, sure.
Oh, it's gone up to 30 already. Flipping heck.
All right, so we are online already. We have already 37 participants. Well, good afternoon or good morning, wherever in the world you are. We're happy to have you here. We're about to start the webinar, our Shackleton's Final Quest webinar. It will be nice to hear and keep in touch with you. So, Angie, would you like to begin?
Yes, thanks, Natty. Well, yes, welcome to everyone who is joining us on this webinar. We're really pleased to have you here. We hope to be able to answer all your questions. I'd like to introduce you to our team, and I know many of you will of course know Caro, my business partner. There she is, waving. Next to her is the wonderful Christina, who's dealing with all the flights and everything else. How she does it sort of amazes us, the enormous amount of admin that she's dealing with, but she keeps cool, calm, collected, and answers everyone's question. And there we have Natty, our IT guru. That's what we call her, because she puts our webinars together and she looks after everything. And I'm permanently emailing her and asking her to sort of get me out of great IT difficulties. So that is the Ice Tracks team. And of course, many of you will know Nick Lambert, and he will really be leading the webinar this evening. We always use him as the master of ceremonies because he's just brilliant at it. And of course, Nick will be on the voyage with us. We'll be enjoying some of his lectures because he's had this extraordinary career, which you will all learn about, and he's great fun, especially at the bar. So Nick, can I hand the webinar over to you?
Thanks very much indeed, Angie, for those kind words. And as I was saying earlier, I don't know how you've discovered the secret of eternal youth, but it's a real pleasure to see you all. And Natalie and Chris and Caro, really good to see you. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Lambert. I'm the chairman of the James Caird Society, and we've had the pleasure of working with the Ice Tracks team for the last probably 2-3 years on thinking about this this centenary voyage to follow in the tracks, some of the tracks, I hasten to add, of the Quest expedition. And I'm going to start with some thank yous. A very big thank you to the team who've continued to work hard at keeping this voyage afloat. It's been postponed once, but we're all aware of the way that COVID has run, and we now really can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel if we're not already emerging from it. And I've been most impressed by the balanced way in which the team, working with the cruise company, have kept a careful eye on proceedings and produced balanced and adjusted programs accordingly, and really thought through the logistics of how to ensure that the voyage can go ahead, as indeed you'll be hearing about in a moment. So thank you to the team, and also to the cruise company, please, Angie, for all the work they've put in to keep the project alive. And just as an aside, from the James Caird Society perspective, that too has been on hold. We managed to keep our committee meetings running. Angie mentioned IT. The James Caird committee members are of a certain age, and IT has been entertaining, but they're now all fully spammed up on the use of Zoom and Teams and online working. And it's been entirely successful keeping the business of the society running. I was really chuffed that we were able to do our first summer barbecue on board the Wellington on the Thames in the summer in August, where everybody showed great interest in being able to get back together. And we have 160 people, Angie mentioned, all lined up for Friday evening, which will be our first dinner for nearly 2 years at Dulwich College. And I'm hoping that the Master Joe Spence will be joining us at some stage in the next 20 minutes or so. So all in all, it feels as if we're starting to get back on track. It feels as though we're all starting to meet face to face, and it's looking promising for this cruise. So I think, Angie, that's probably enough for me by way of introduction, isn't it?
Perfect, thank you. So we've sent everyone all the various subjects that we're going to talk about. We've had lots and lots of questions. Hopefully we can answer all your questions this evening. And so, Caro, can I hand now the schedule to you, and you can go through all the various subjects that we need to talk about.
Yes, thank you, Angie. Thank you everyone for being there. Sorry we cannot see each other's faces and we cannot listen to each other's voices. It's just such a short time before we all do that together. So just bear with us as we tell you everything that we have worked on, and then obviously start sending your questions through the Q&A box, and then we will slowly get to those. So I wanted to start talking about the international flights. You have received 2 emails from us with information and with options, and I appreciate the ones of you that have answered already with your preferences. We are continue to waiting for those of you that haven't got back to us or have questions. Basically, we know that people are coming from many corners of the world. Most of us on the quest, though, are coming from London, although we do have several listening to this webinar from Australia and from South Africa and from the States. So hi to all of you there. We're not forgetting about you, but we're just specifically talking about the group booking flights from London to Buenos Aires and back to London. We feel that the group booking is a great way forward because as we explained on our last email, is the one way we have to further control the bubble that we are going to create in Buenos Aires. We have offered you economy, premium and business class. We, over the weekend, we're working with our partners and British Airways to better the price for business, as many of you prefer class was business class. So we are happy that the price dropped about almost £600 since the quote that we sent on Friday. Obviously, we cannot make international flight mandatory, but we want to tell you that if you do decide to book your flights with another airlines, to try to make this route as direct as possible. I wanted to tackle the 3 if that we were getting questions about. And this has to do with international flights as well, and the precautions that we're asking you kindly to take prior your departure and during your flights before we enter the bubble in Buenos Aires. So basically, what happens if you arrive in Buenos Aires and the antigen test upon arrival at the hotel, it's positive. Basically, you're not going to be allowed to embark. Travel credit or another voyage will be given to you, and then your travel insurance with COVID-19 coverage will kick in, and then you will have to isolate in Buenos Aires before returning home. What happens if the antigen test on day 2 or 3 on board returns positive to you? So by now we're all sailing in a bubble, but if any passenger tests positive, then we were going to have a deck allocated for potential scenarios where there is a negative case. If the symptoms are mild, itinerary will run as usual, and the doctor will decide when you're allowed to join the rest of the trip, depending on what was the loss in terms of enjoyment. we will give you another trip in the future or a travel credit. Obviously, we're hoping that none of this happens, but I wanted to take this opportunity to inform you. There is a final test, an antigen test that is required by the government of Argentina before disembarkation. If you test positive, if any of the passengers test positive on this third testing, then your COVID-19 insurance kicks in and you will remain isolated for the period of time that the authorities required you, and then you will fly home afterwards. Obviously, if Icetrax has some control over your flights, your international flights, we will be able immediately to assist you. If you have booked your flights independently, then you will have to deal directly with that on a situation that can be sort of aggravating to the already sort of bad scenario. I'm sure you do all have questions, and by all means start to type them on the Q&A, but I will be very happy to open up my mobile number and have a private conversation with all of you, just to make sure that there are no questions unanswered. So in terms of international flights, it's pretty obvious that the flexibility that British Airways is giving us by allocating a sector of the plane where we can all travel together, B, not necessarily be paying the full amount until later on, name changes. There's a number of benefits that we can have with the group booking, and that's why we decided to go that way. Obviously, we would like you to take that opportunity and take advantage of it, but we understand if you have other arrangements. Joe is here, so I don't want to take too long, and I'm gonna let Nick introduce you, and we would love to hear from you too.
Brilliant. Thanks, Caro. Just to remind everybody, please put your questions up. We're starting to see questions coming up in Q&A. That's excellent. We'll pick up with those in a moment, Lisa. So Joe, thank you so much for joining us and for maintaining your support for the expedition, and also in advance of hopefully seeing you on Friday evening when we're back in your fabulous Great Hall. The floor is yours to say a few words, please.
Well, it will be very few, but when Angie invited me just to join you as a semi-panelist just for a few minutes, I couldn't resist. It feels very appropriate to be talking to everybody this evening, as I'm online until I go off to the James Caird Hall, where I'm hosting the first Masters Forum here at Dulwich since 2019. So the first set of 200 parents coming back for an evening of quizzing me on everything. And we start with our reception in the James Caird Hall. So it feels if, let's use that as a touch of the return of normalcy, or the coming of the new normal. And I'm so pleased that in this sabbatical that I've been afforded from Dulwich College, in my 13th year as master, that I will be able to join you and the Icetrax team going south in the footsteps of our most illustrious old boy, Sir Ernest Shackleton. So it'll be a great pleasure to meet everybody in due course. I feel very well looked after already by Angie and Caro and Chris and the team. And yes, hopefully anyone who is here who's with us on Friday evening for the James Caird Society dinner, please do come and say a first hello. But I look forward to getting to know everybody as the weeks and months go by before we have this fantastic trip south, which feels so right as we're coming out of what we've been through in the last 18 months. And as you can imagine, from my point of view, it'll be a great pleasure to come back and share in a more real way than ever the lessons of Shackleton as leader, of those qualities that are always so easily talked about in the modern age and so hard to realize, of resilience and grit and everything else. But delighted to be with you this evening, delighted to be part of this, and so pleased that the work of Icetrax has allowed us to dream of going south in February. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks. Joe, could I just mention, could you mention something about your musical interlude that we may look forward to once on board?
Well, I'm not sure it will be the musical interlude while we're on board, but certainly soon thereafter. One of the things that I'm very keen to do as well as my role as master. My great love is the arts, and notably music and drama. And of late, rather than being a playwright, I've turned into something of a librettist. I'm enjoying writing a chamber opera at the moment for a young opera company in London and Copenhagen. And one thing that we did early on, people might know that as well as the story, it seems we're hitting those centenaries and quarter-centenaries at the moment. I mentioned 2019 as the last time things felt normal at Dulwich and we're able to have great events. And thank God we could have 2019 because that was our 400th anniversary. And in the run up to the 400th anniversary, one of the things we did in 2016, the anniversary, of course, therefore, of elements of the endurance voyage, was to commission a play called The White Road. And a wonderful writer called Jenny Wharton wrote a beautiful play about Shackleton and his sister and the idea of the White Road. And one of the conceits within that, as you can well imagine, was that great Shackletonian notion that while they were walking their white road, there was another presence with them. And one of the things I'm hoping to do during the course of our time together on board is to turn that play into a chamber opera, to write the libretto for a chamber opera, The White Road, based on Shackleton's great expeditions. And so in that sense, maybe there'll be things that I can share with you from the play, ideas emerging, but I'm really delighted to have that as a project within a project that I'll be bringing south and sharing with you. And no doubt many of you will have comments and reflections and memories and experiences that you might want to share with me that can be fed into that. So I see that as something we'll all indirectly be part of, but that's something I'm certainly delighted to be having the time and space to do in a way I certainly couldn't if I was based in SE21.
Well, that's wonderful. And if Antarctica doesn't inspire you, nothing will. You'll be in the right place.
I believe you. Thank you, Angie.
Nick. No, go back to Caro.
That's exactly that. So thank you very much indeed. Caro, have you got more information to pass across to us before we start answering questions?
Yeah, just a wee bit more. Just be patient. Be patient with that. So we just cover international flights, and there was a question that I just tick as answered, but I'm going to answer now. The question was about the blocking of seats. Whether that was going to be in premium, economy and economy class. And we're hoping so, yes. That will depend on the numbers we get on each class. So that was one of the questions. Then I end up with the flights. I cover the Embarkation Protocols, and which is slightly wanted to touch based on the charter flights. Obviously, once we enter the bubble in Buenos Aires, then from now on until embarkation, it's a smooth way onto the ship. We don't have to worry about flight schedule delays. We're going to be traveling, so anyone on that ship will be on the plane. There will be plenty of room on the charter flight, especially if you're coming from with a 23 kilo luggage. You will be able to carry on 23 kilos onto the ship as well. So lots of room in many ways, very positive to have that package sort of put together for us. And we, for the extension, which Chris will cover just in a little while, we just crunch the numbers so you wouldn't feel that as, paying a ridiculous amount of money. So we built up and added a lot of value for those that are staying with us on to Montevideo. But also, if you're not, then just that smaller price difference from what would have been the price of a regular domestic flight is not great. It's not grand in terms of a financial investment, and I think it gives us a lot of benefits in terms of keeping us safe. Then there was a question here. Will there be sections in? But yeah, I've just answered that. And Do we have to test before leaving Heathrow on February 7th? Yes, you want to cover that?
Yes, yeah. So, well, good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris, and I am the one pestering you with email after email, asking for things and confirmations and all that. So, going back a little bit before the international flights, we're going to touch Argentina Entry requirements. As many of you may know, today Argentina opened borders to international tourism. That means that quarantine is not required anymore, but we will have certain requirements. So at the moment, if you want to, before embarking, you will have to take a PCR test within 72 hours of boarding the plane to be presented on arrival. Apart from that, you need to obviously be fully vaccinated, and that means minimum 2 doses. I mean, mainly in the UK, you are going on to your 3rd dose, I believe, which is very lucky, but at least 2. And then I think airlines are requesting to complete an affidavit within 48 hours of embarking the flight, and that you will be able to find on the airline website. Of course, we will send links and everything, and you will be able to ask me as many questions as you need. So once you are in Argentina and you are arriving on the 8th, you will be transferred to the Alvear Hotel, very nice hotel in the center of Buenos Aires. And there, for those who are arriving on the group flight, it's no problem because we are arriving all together. For those taking individual flights, we are requesting that you arrive ideally before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because by 5 o'clock, the ship operator needs to have everyone tested. And that means an antigen test that they will perform with the medical team at the hotel. But it needs to be finished at 5 o'clock in order to enable them to have the results before the evening, because the next morning, between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, we will be all taking the transfer to the international airport, where we will take the flight to Ushuaia as a group. When we land in Ushuaia, we will be transferred to the Aracur Hotel, which is a very, very nice hotel in Ushuaia. I think it's the only 5-star hotel in Ushuaia, isn't it? Located inside a natural reserve. So we will have lunch there. And I think we are going to have some time around the natural reserve to be able to stretch legs and get ready. And around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we will be transferred to the ship. And we will embark safe in our safe bubble, so there will be no need of testing us before embarking, because we would have been tested the day before. That is part of the mandatory flight package upon embarkation. And then I think it's going to be between the 2nd and the 5th day on board, we will be tested again.
Yes.
And the 3rd day. And then we will all be tested before disembarking with the antigen test. Now, as some of you have already said that you are not going to take part in the extension, you will obviously need to be tested with a PCR before taking the flight back home on the 28th. And that will be arranged as well. So there is nothing for you to worry about, because we are trying to cover all instances, you say? Yes, all the possible scenarios. But you will be tested. You will have all the documents and everything that you need to present to be able to board, whether it is on the 28th or whether it is on the 3rd of March when we finish the Montevideo and Buenos Aires extension. What else? So that we covered. Well, shall I go into the post-voyage extension, or?
Sure, go ahead and get that so we can get to the Q&A.
Okay, so I'll try to be quick. When we disembark on the 27th, for those of us who will continue to Buenos Aires and Montevideo, we will take the chartered flight back to Buenos Aires, and there we will spend the night in Buenos Aires, and the next morning, that is the 28th, we will take a ferry boat to Colonia del Sacramento, where we will spend some time there before being transferred by bus to Montevideo. And in Montevideo, we will spend the rest of the 28th and the 1st of March during activities and city tour, and we will visit sites related to polar history, obviously, and Shackleton. And then on the 2nd, we will fly back to Buenos Aires, where we will have a city tour of Buenos Aires later in the afternoon, and we are going to have a fantastic dinner and tango show in one of the best venues in Buenos Aires, for those interested in a little bit of tango history in the city. And of course, on the 3rd, we will be transferred to the international airport early in the morning to be able to take the flight back home And by home, I'm saying, sorry for those who are not from the UK, but we are talking about the main group going back to the UK, which will leave around 12 o'clock. Yeah, I think it's 12 o'clock. And that's that. We will be bidding farewell to everyone at the international airport. So you're free from us after that.
The couple of just two things added to that. There was a question about being tested prior to the flight to Buenos Aires on the 7th.
It's a PCR.
You are required.
You will need to present that.
So far, this is what the government of Argentina is requiring. And then we will, if the UK is requiring you to have a PCR test positive to return to your home countries, not the UK, I'm sorry, I'm just talking to other nationalities here as well. So if your home country requires you a PCR test on the way back, we will organize that, and it's all included in the price that we quoted. So you don't have to pay extra for that. I guess that's that from our side. There were some questions that were answered just as we were discussing. I don't know whether Angie, you want to answer Peter Gilbert question for everyone.
Oh, yes, I'm very happy to. Peter, who's the senior medical officer in the Falklands, he said in sunny Mount Pleasant, which is more than we can say here, and he says he's involved in the approval of British forces personnel to travel to the Falklands. And he mentions, which we're very much aware of at the moment, that some of the ship operators are reversing their itinerary for now. And that the reason is that the Falklands has restrictions, which we feeling sort of fairly optimistic that those will change, as everything is changing very quickly now. What I've said to him, because as the restrictions stand today, we can go to the Falklands if we've been on the ship for 10 days, which obviously, as our plan stands today, we wouldn't have been on the ship for that long. But as I say, that could all change. We're monitoring it every day. We're talking to our ship operator, Polar Latitudes. They're also monitoring this situation. And today I've been talking to various people in the Falklands. The general feeling is optimism. We have a very good plan in place if for any reason we have to turn the itinerary around. The reason that we haven't flagged that up with everyone up until today is because it just throws people. And, you know, as it is, we've all had a very difficult couple of years. You know, not everyone feels as confident as we do. But just to assure everyone that we do have another plan in place if we're not allowed to land in the Falklands. So I don't want to worry everyone. The Falklands and South Georgia are pivotal to our voyage, extremely important. We will be visiting them. So that's how it stands today. But I'm very pleased to be in touch actually with Peter, because, you know, he's got the eyes and the ears on the ground, and I will also stay in touch with him. I hope that makes everyone feel calm about the situation.
Yes. So I guess at this point, I'm not sure, Nati, whether you want to cover a little bit of travel insurance, which we have.
Sure. I was just answering a question. Let me just type enter so you can see it. There you go.
If I just before you start, Natty, I think what we'll do is if you talk insurance now, and then rather than you all desperately trying to type out answers, we'll rattle through them and give verbal answers. Otherwise, you're all going to be exhausted trying to type and keep up with the pace. So if you do insurance, and I think there is a question touching on insurance in here.
Yes, indeed. We've sent all of you previously just a document with all the travel insurance requirements you must you must have in order to travel. We've also recommended a few different companies. For those who are UK residents, you can use Campbell and Irvine. And for those who are non-UK residents, you can use the Journeyman Services. We've done an extensive research, and we've checked that these two companies cover all the requirements you need in order to travel without any further worries. A question that was just they typed in the QA answer box was that what if you are covered if you are diagnosed with the virus. Of course, if the travel insurance has this extensive coverage, you will be, and there's also a cancellation fee that you will be offered in case you can't travel. So we've already also sent you the link in case you wish to request a quote to the travel companies. And of course, we have the contact details. And if you have further questions, we can send you the details, and you can just pick up the phone and ask any specific questions you might have.
Okay. Cool. So just thank you very much indeed for that, Natty. So just rattling through that, the question reference Ushuaia, are we restricted to the ship? I think it's come out in the conversation and in responses that we are restricted to the ship in Ushuaia to stay as part of the bubble. But it's a beautiful ship and it's a beautiful harbour. So whilst it'll be disappointing not to go ashore, I think I can think of a lot worse places and ships to be on if I'm parked alongside the wall. And there'll be a bar, and Angie, her ever-looking young self, will be there ordering gins for everybody. So that's fine. There's a question from Andrew North about the percentage deposit on flights, please.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you for the question. There is a very small amount of money asked for deposits. I think it's £150 for £125 for economy. There may be 310 for premium economy and 400 for business. Chris had done all the paperwork. Yes, answered. Okay,
cool. So thank you for that one. I'm just going to say done, otherwise I'll lose track. From Gillian Farher, a bigger luggage allowance on, in business class, is that allowable on the ship, please, ladies?
On the ship, yeah, we will need to find out about the charter flight because we were given maximums and that was 23 kilos. But let me ask the question, yeah, plus 10 hand luggage. So let me ask the question separately. I'll see if I can get something more.
Cool, thanks, Chris. You may have to leave the kitchen sink at home, Gillian. So that's answered that one. Judith, a very good question here. Clothing suggestion list. Remembering ice tracks as I do, there will be a comprehensive clothing suggestion list, and the equipment that we were provided with on the last trip I went on with ice tracks was second to none. Perfectly acceptable, very good clothing for wet weather. But I'll just let
upgraded, Nick. We upgraded.
You've upgraded it. Oh, right.
Oh, yes.
Good. All right, so crack on then. Let's have the story, Cara. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, everyone is gonna get a fantastic parka to keep, and it's a parka that has been designed based on the Shackleton story and all these men enduring this fabulous weather. So there is a present. So you must leave a little space in your luggage to bring this amazing jacket home.
Okay, so that's another reason for not taking the kitchen sink.
Exactly. You shouldn't take the kitchen sink. You should leave some little bit extra room for this amazing parka that will be gifted to you once on board. There are also a number of small gifts coming from our side, from Ice Tracks. that will complement the garments that you will be needing on your Antarctic expeditions, but more of that will come later. We were hoping to send all the traveling documents in the packing list and further information about your Antarctic trip once we can get all the flights, all the extensions, all the land services, and the final payments off the table, which we're hoping for this to happen within the next 10 days.
Okay, cool. So the so broad order then, there will be all the safety equipment, life jackets, foul weather gear, foul weather trousers, boots, all that stuff is provided on board with proper briefings on how to use it. And there's a whole process that we all go through for donning equipment and for taking it off at the end of the day. If you're mad enough to go kayaking like Patricia Moynihan is with her question coming up next, you get lots of extra kit, including a canoe, which comes in handy if you're kayaking. And then the clothing on board, it's a pretty relaxed regime. Be comfortable. The weather down south, it'll be summer, but you can have all 4 seasons in the same day. So comfortable gear on board. And I think we had one smart-ish evening, didn't we, Caro?
That's correct. That's the captain dinner at the end, where we all sort of get together and thank our captain and our staff and our guides. And even if you just throw a funny tie on or something sparkling for the girls, will do. Nothing fancy, but if you want to take that opportunity to put something that is a little bit special, everyone will appreciate it.
Okay, cool. So I think we probably answered that question. So I'm going to click done. But if anybody's got any more clothing questions, please do throw them up there at the screen. Patricia, your question re kayaking. I'm sure that Caro and Chris will be in touch with you. Are you wishing to answer that now, Chris? May they sign up for kayaking?
Yes, they are signed up for kayaking, Patricia. Yes, yeah, your spots are confirmed, yes.
Okay, cool, all done there. Thank you very much indeed. Lisa Marie Cabrelli, this is the question re the Falklands that came up earlier. The answer to that is yes, across the passage, down into the peninsula, then back across to Elephant Island, South Georgia, around South Georgia, and then Harry Homers via the Falklands. If that is indeed the case. But we've got the advantage of Peter having the knowledge from the Falklands, and thank you, Peter, for asking the question that you asked. And yes, we will shamelessly pick your brains now we know the important role that you've got down there. And we've also got the cruises that precede us, which are starting in the next week or so, I think, Caro. We'll see how they progress, and we'll see how the Falklands eases up and how we can fit them into the itinerary. That sound okay? Okay, so that's that one done. Susan Rose, should we take a laptop if we're keen on our photography? Oh, please do. Take all the normal sort of equipment with you. The ship will have all the normal 240 voltage sockets, USB sockets, all that sort of stuff. The adapters in Argentina, if I recall correctly, are UK, the 2 pins, aren't they? 2 round pins.
That's correct.
That's right. So it's a European standard type socket, or is it?
That's correct.
It's not the US, it's the European. European. Okay. You know, take all your cameras, all that sort of stuff. If you haven't got a lens which is about 1.5 meters long, you're not a proper photographer, Susan. Everybody there could be competing with their camera equipment, and there's loads and loads.
That's not true. We love all our photographers, our phone photographers especially, and we will have a photographer in residence on board that will be conducting workshops and will be helping everyone to get the perfect shots of their Antarctic trip.
Susan, if you do not have a 1.5 meter long lens, you're not a proper photographer, despite whatever Caro says. Do you want to just talk a little bit, Caro, about connectivity? Because I'm sure that's going to be a question for people. So, will they be able to send emails? How will that
Yes,
work?
communications. Yes. Well, thank you very much for asking the question. We will have some internet available for everyone, free of charge. If you want further, if you feel like you need further data or minutes, then you can purchase from the hotel manager. The ship has a very good communication equipment, so it's not like those old days where you have to go with the Iridium phone and wait for a dial-up situation. So we have much better communication. Not sure whether you're going to be doing social media such and sharing videos or large photographs, but you'll definitely be able to keep in touch on a daily basis with your loved ones.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Question from Christelle van der Merwe. I hope I got the pronunciation right there. How cold or warm will it be on the ship internally? It'll be comfortable. I've seen people, well, there'll be lots of people who could wear shorts quite comfortably on board. Like lots of the ship's company will be wearing shorts because that's what they always do. But if you've got a nice sort of fleecy top, that sort of thing, you'll be perfectly warm. You want to have something like that because there'll be opportunities to stand on the upper deck at all sorts of time of the day. So you need that to be handy rather than putting on your full foul weather gear. So it's just the normal, think about the sort of autumn, / early spring climate for the UK for some parts of the day. And then during the heat of the day, if there's lots of sunshine, you'll be out there with short sleeve shirts on. So just have that flexibility. Take the layers rule. It's all about putting layers on and off. So think about your clothing accordingly. Don't bring great big thick polo neck jumpers. Bring lots of thin layers that you can add.
If I may just jump and add something about the footwear, Nick.
Good idea.
The footwear that you choose for your time on board, preferably close and with good grip. So if we are sort of hanging out together in the bar and whales are announced and we all run outside, we want to have shoes that have good grip. You don't have to worry about footwear when you get off the ship, as we will be providing you with very warm thermal Mac boots, rubber boots, gum boots. But on the ship, just think comfortably, think good grip, and think closed toes. Those three things are important.
Okay. Just coming. Okay, more questions. Binoculars and or telescope from two questioners, Michael and Gavin. Personally, I go for binoculars. Wouldn't bother with a telescope, but that's just my personal preference. That's how I would play it because you're just going to take up space. And there's lots. Have we got binos on board?
We should have some binos on board. This is a very good question, and thank you for asking about binos and scopes. Definitely, I will agree with Nick on the bino situation. We use scopes, and they're very common to have passengers bringing their scopes to the Arctic, but not necessarily here. The wildlife is very friendly, and you sometimes don't even need to backtrack to get some proper perspective, otherwise they're up very close. And I will find out how many binoculars we have on board and what quality are those, and we will communicate this to everyone.
Brilliant, thank you very much indeed. From Susan, is there a laundry service? Only if you've got a 1.5 meter long camera lens, Susan. I shall let Cara give the proper answer.
Yes, Susan. And even though if you don't bring your big lens, we will allow you to use the laundry.
Right. Just going back. Oh, we've got a question here from Christelle again. The hotel stay on the 27th in Buenos Aires, is that included for the non-Montevideo visitors?
Yes, in this last email that we sent for the webinar, we included this mini package for those who are not going to join the extension, because due to flight connection times, you will be landing in Buenos Aires around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and that may be difficult for some to catch the international flight on that same day. So We included the price of that mini package of being transferred again to the center of Buenos Aires, spending the night, and the transfer back to the international airport on the 28th. So that's all in the email. Christelle, I will resend the information to you, no problem.
Brilliant, thanks, Chris. From our current list of passengers, what proportion are IceTrack, and how many of those are JCS? Phew, it's a trick one.
We're almost half the group on board, the chef. So the IceTrack's Quest group is close to half, 55 plus. And Angie, I wouldn't know how many of those are James. We have converted many that weren't James Caird Society members into new members.
Nearly 2/3, I would think, and now, and I hopefully by the time everyone gets off that ship, they will belong to the James Caird Society and come to the dinners, which are just spectacular.
Marvelous.
So yeah, it's really thanks to the James Caird Society that this extraordinary voyage is going ahead. We've been so supported by them, and now to have the headmaster, known as the Master of Dulwich College, joining us, and we've just got so many interesting people that are going to make this a very, very special voyage. But it's thanks really to the James Caird Society, which is a huge feather in our hats that we were asked by them to put this trip together.
Sending rude messages to Susan privately.
I see there's something going on there.
Thank you very much indeed. And just talking about that, Angie, what's the total number of people who will be on board? Do you know? Is it just over 100, I think?
Yeah. Well, the ship can take 139. I mean, it can take more, but we keep in a whole deck, which is for anyone that's not well. So absolutely max will be 139. Now, at this point, we haven't got 139 going. So, I mean, as I went to look at the ship, as everyone knows, and I was absolutely knocked out by the space on the ship. Caro cut her teeth on very different ships, probably some 20 years ago. And then I came into the business about 12 years ago and cut my teeth on, again, very different ships, which were mainly Russian, very simple. Nick, you know them. I can't say, Nick, you cut your teeth on the Endurance. You were the captain of the modern day Endurance. I'm not sure it is quite as luxurious as the ship we were about to go on. But what I really loved about the Sea Venture was that it's spacious. It has, it's very comfortable, but, it isn't all sort of shiny and, sort of gold and paneled like some of the ships are today going down to Antarctica. It has actually quite a sort of vintage feel about it. And it just has a feeling of a workhorse, and that's what we want. We're on an expedition, I don't generally like using the word cruise, gives the sort of wrong feel. We're on expedition, but we're a lot more comfortable than we used to be back in the old days, where there were small cabins and shared bathrooms and all pretty basic. And as I wrote in my blog, which people can pick up, we had lunch on board, had the most spectacular food. There's wonderful wine on board, and it meets all our requirements, but in a rather understated way, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just, so looking forward to everyone enjoying it. And I think what's really important, Nick, is that I know we keep talking about COVID and the restrictions, and we all still feel a bit under the cosh, But what I really hope will happen, and I believe it will, is that when we get on board, we can leave this difficult time that we've had behind us and just enjoy the trip for what it is, or the expedition for what it is, and just be in this sort of spectacular surroundings. It's pristine. I mean, many people are coming back and have already been on trips with us. And it's really important for us that we create something which is special, and we can forget all our woes and really enjoy the voyage for what it is going to be. Here endeth that lesson.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that, Angie, because I wanted to ask you to talk about the ship a little bit. So I think you've covered that very nicely. And they are lovely ships. They're not too big, not too small, with cracking accommodation and good food and a good bar and lots of hot water, which is what it's all about. So I'm just jumping around now. In the chat room, as opposed to the Q&A room, there's a question from Steve Scott Fawcett about PCR test in the UK before you fly. I have 2 VaxDoc, of course. Hopefully by then you'll also have a booster as well, Steve. And the answer is yes, you do, if I recall correctly, Caro and Chris.
Yes, so far the Argentina government is requesting everyone to arrive with a PCR negative test. So if this changes from now till February, we surely let you know. We believe, as the same way the European community sort of very much flexibilized the whole entry of international tourism to the region, that certain flexibilization will happen from now till February, the same way we are expecting the Falkland Islands to announce the relaxation of the regulations as well. So being here in Patagonia, being here within Argentina already has helped us greatly to prepare for welcoming you, rather than being in another country trying to enter the country. We will be here keeping you updated and making sure that you arrive with all the information you need prior taking your flight.
Okay, and the question about how old the PCR test can be.
Oh, 72 hours.
72
sorry.
hours. Yeah, it has to be
That one done.
taken within 72.
It says, what do you require by way of documentation to prove that you're vaccinated? I think that's just the little vaccination certificates that we've got, isn't it?
Correct. We have no health passport or anything like that so far here in Argentina. So just the proof, like the little,
Argentina will accept any certificate or vaccine that your own government of country of origin issues or accept or approve. So there is no restriction whatsoever on that.
Okay, and just looking in the chat again, I've got questions from Shackleton's scouts. It's probably Alan. Questions about air tickets. Please, could you take that offline with Chris, please, Alan, because she'll be able to tell you all about how the tickets were priced. And as she said earlier, there's some options being provided by email a little earlier this evening, which you may not have had a chance to read. Whilst I'm looking down through the chat room, just for Angela Spence, thank you very much indeed to Joe for joining us, and we quite understand that he's off to the reception. Going back to extensions, so that's the Montevideo extension. I think you're typing, Caro, but you may just want to give a quick verbal idea of the numbers of the bubble that we're in, who are doing the extension.
Well, we still haven't got, we were around 30, 35, but now numbers have dropped, so I can't give you a figure now.
On that note, we will encourage everyone to take the evening perhaps, or tomorrow morning, to give us your preference in terms of flying, in terms of the extension, and anything else that you need from us. But we need to wrap up the numbers of who is doing what, and whether you're flying, whether you're taking our group flights or not, so we can go ahead and finalize that for the group.
Yes, and before I forget, sorry, another very special favor I have to ask everyone. If you can start completing the online forms, I sent you links At the moment, when we receive the deposit, or a little bit later, I sent you all some forms, a link to the online forms that you need to complete. And we are almost now reaching the deadline, which is 90 days prior. So if you need me to send the link again, send me a quick line and I'll do it. But we need those forms completed now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. We can all talk about that at the JCS dinner on Friday as well. Couple more questions about clothing. The answer to you, Brad, is yes. Outdoor waterproof trousers and tops and boots and Uncle Tom Cobley and all are provided. And there'll be guidance on gloves and inner gloves and all that stuff. And go ahead, Caro.
Yes, we have to double check on the trousers. I think at this point, trousers, the waterproof trousers are requested for you to bring. Sort of the parka that I was mentioning, we were gonna send you information, so you know it's a very warm, beautiful parka. But the trousers, the waterproof, windproof trousers, you need to carry with you. If you don't have any, or coming from a warm country, just drop us a line and we'll fix you up.
Okay, got that one. Sorry, I just remembered last time that's what we had, so that's what I was going by. Forgive me. Right. So that's trousers done. Boots for the route. If we do the Shackleton route into Stromness, I think having walking boots is a very sensible thing to do. That depending on what sort you get, you want them for all sorts of stages, including if we do the Falklands and go ashore on the peninsula and so on. It's quite handy to have boots available. I will certainly be taking walking boots, but you may want to just comment on that, please, Caro.
No, yes, no, I 100% agree with you, Nick. I think if you have hiking boots, you may as well bring them with you. This is can be a challenging walk, especially on the descent. I personally have done it on rubber boots, and I wouldn't probably do it again on rubber boots. So yeah, bring your hiking boots.
Gloves, yep, there'll be guidance on that in the list. Crampons and ice sacks, yeah, if you fancy carrying it. Personally, I'd leave the space for other things like a bottle of gin, but let's see how that goes. And honestly, everybody, with all these questions about boots, you'll find that the guidance that you get from the team will be comprehensive. Another one about biosecurity. Biosecurity, there's a whole bunch of process around biosecurity, and you scrub your boots off when you get back on board and all that sort of stuff. So that shouldn't be an issue. Can you bring walking poles? Yes, if you wish. Fill your boots. That should be fine. Done that one. As you suggest, please could you send us a reminder email with all the forms, etc. You need to do at least the date of the email you sent for us. Yeah, we'll follow that all up. We'll provide a summary of the things that Chris and Cara have asked you to do after this meeting. I've done that one, so I'm rattling through them now. There's some answers going up on the chat room from Natalie. So the final question then before we close is, I've been keeping it deliberately, is what will be the lecture and citizen science program? Who would like to answer that?
Amazing. We have such an amazing group of people. Not only what iStracks is bringing, you know, Stephen, Nick, Joe, Angie, who am I forgetting? But you may want to answer these, not me.
We've got Peter McCarthy coming.
McCarthy.
Who's one of the descendants, who gives absolutely brilliant talks. And of course, the ship will provide the best of the best, whether they naturalists, geologists, you know, what am I forgetting? I mean, they cover everything.
Marine biologist, photographer in residence,
Yeah.
And many interesting people. The truth is, this particular trip, it's 3.5 years on the making. We started to talk with the ship owners and the ship operators even before they had the schedule of the 2021-2022 season, before the pandemic hits. So this trip is not only special for us, it's very special for them as well. So they have made the effort to put the best of the best on board, to make sure that we have not only amazing expedition guides, but also very well-formed and well-informed people that will enrich our journey through Antarctica, Falklands, and South Georgia.
I mean, someone we'll have on board is Sebastian Coulthard, who
Right.
was with the Royal Navy. Once he came out of that, he's done extraordinary things. He was one of the group of men that he's built his own James Caird boat to the very, very last bolt. It's copied exactly as the Shackleton's James Caird boat that crossed the 400 miles of the Weddell Sea and is now sitting in Dulwich College. And Seb built a replica, but he's also been in a replica. He's done that crossing with a group of them. And I mean, they were lucky really to come out alive. But anyway, they did it. They were eating the same food. They were wearing the same clothes as Shackleton and his men. So Seb, who will be giving lectures, is a sort of Shackleton nut, but he's also done really interesting things. So that's someone else who will be giving lectures as well.
And we can't forget the one and the only Alexandra Shackleton, who will be traveling with us and just bringing her grandfather's spirit with her. So yeah. All in all, I think we're pretty good cover for this trip on the lecture kind of.
And I think what's wonderful about Alexandra that she never uses notes, but she just holds everyone spellbound, talking about her grandfather. So yes, she is a very, very special guest.
I think the final thing to say on it is that you're all part of the lecture program if you wish to be, because one of the things that IceTrack's team encourage is fireside chats, barside chats, and people can give a quick 10-minute spiel about something that interests them, something they've seen. They end up as the expedition progresses, showing their photographs, and there's a photograph competition and all that sort of thing. So there's no shortage of things to do, to listen to, and to be part of. So I think we've all answered that question. Thank you very much indeed. So that's it. All the questions have been answered. We've been going for just over the hour. So I'm guessing that everybody's had their fill. So I think chance now to thank the IceTrack's team for all the information they've provided us with, and just to ask them all in turn before closing with Angie if they've got any final remarks. So Natalia, any hang on one second. Do we need cash on board?
Good question.
Not necessarily cash. At some point, you're going to be asked to pay your bar bill, which may include your communications, personal expenses such as souvenir shopping, but not more than that. Obviously, the gratuities are also not included on the voyage. So at the end of the trip, you may be able to swap your credit card, or if you prefer to bring cash, you can cancel your bill with that. Okay, thanks, Cara. So just round the room then. So finally, Natalia, any after remarks, after comments for you, please?
Sure. It's been a long time since we first announced the trip. I know it's been tough for everyone, But the whole team has been working really hard to make sure this experience will be unforgettable. So we are excited and we are starting the countdown, and we're really happy to be able to see everyone on board.
Well said, Natalie.
Thank you very much indeed, Natalia. Chris?
Sorry, exactly as Nati said, we are so looking forward. We've been working on this project for so long that I can't believe we are going to be together in, what, 3 months? So yes, looking forward to meeting you all on board in this first project.
Brilliant. And Caro, could you, whilst you make your comment, also comment on currency for cash? US
I
dollars.
saw it, Susan. You better bring that 1.5 meter long length now. It's US dollars, and thank you, Susan, for asking the question. The currency of the ship is US dollars. So if you're bringing cash, you'll be much better with US dollars. Otherwise, your credit card will do. And I think the final closure for me is just, tag along what the girls have said. Which is what needs to happen so badly. And we look forward to seeing you there. So if you could please help us by answering before the end of Tuesday, whether you're going to take a flight, which cabin class, whether you're doing the extension or not, and whether you need anything from us. We will be
brilliant. Okay, thanks. I think that was, we got the last of that, Caro. Thanks. And so finally, just Angie to close, please.
Well, I would just like to thank you, Nick, once again, holding the fort here, fencing the questions, and always looking sort of so relaxed about everything. That's the sort of person we need.
And handsome.
And handsome and young. Anyway, thank you so much, Nick. It's very much appreciated by the team. I look forward to seeing you on Friday. I really look forward to seeing many of you that are going to be there. Alexander Shackleton in particular. And yeah, so thanks for everyone for joining us, and just keep throwing as many questions as you like to us. We're here to answer them. And thank you to everyone. And thank you, Nick.
Nick, you're muted. Nick, you're muted.
Yes, there you go. Senior moment. Thanks very much indeed, everybody. Thanks, Angie. Thanks, everybody, for coming to this. Looking forward to seeing you, those of you who can make the JCS dinner on Friday. And looking forward to this great trip. Roll on February. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Votetaan, madame.
No, se calentó, se fue a otro lado.
¿Qué?
Se calentó.